Hi, I'm Niharika Nanda and you are listening to Express Podcasts. It is widely acknowledged that strong foundational learning skills are the bedrock for economic and social development of a country and for any individual. It has been 4 years since the launch of a nationwide mission to ensure foundational learning for all children between grades 1 and 3. And for the first time in 2 decades, we are seeing learning improvements among children. In our second episode in association with Central Square Foundation, we explore the transformative journey of the NIPUN Bharat Mission and how it has made significant strides in improving literacy and numeracy levels of students across the country. On today's episode, we are joined by 2 experts from CSF to decode the implementation science of such a complex mission for our listeners, to also understand the promotion of core mission strategies and what interventions have driven the success of early learning. Joining me are Parthajeet Das, Project Director for FLN at CSF, and Sambhrant Srivastava, Associate Director for FLN, closely working with state departments of education of Haryana, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Telangana, Assam, Punjab and Odisha, among other states. Partha, let's begin with you. Can you take us through the overall implementation framework of the NIPUN Bharat Mission and how it is similar or dissimilar to the other national and state education programs in the country?
NIPUN Bharat Mission is jointly implemented by the Government of India and all the states and union territories. So in that sense, it is a centrally sponsored and supported program. But most education programs of similar nature have been primarily focused on the provision of resources, which is such as infrastructure, classrooms, and let's say human resources such as teachers and other inputs to the schools. What is remarkable about this NIPUN Bharat Mission for the foundational learning is that it puts equal emphasis on provision of resources, processes to utilize these inputs in schools and classrooms, and ultimately on the learning outcomes that we are supposed to achieve by using all these resources which are for the children. And the FLN program is actually an academic program at the heart of it, where it talks about or puts emphasis on a few research-backed academic initiatives which, to be implemented at scale, require good amount of governance structures and mechanisms for that the inputs to reach the schools and classrooms. So that is what is really remarkable and new about the program.
Right. And Sambhrant, can you give us a few examples of the academic interventions that have gone into showcasing that the mission is working and how different states are implementing it?
Yes. So the biggest academic reform is the reform that is of the core academic materials, right? So it has its foundation in where you will see that the teachers have made a marked shift towards a competency-based approach instead of the regular traditional syllabus completion approach. Today, if you go to a state, the teachers would know that these are the 10 language skills, 10 math skills that the child should be able to do by the end of the year. The Government of India also put out this NIPUN Lakshya Suchi, which has the key learning outcome framework on what all the child should be able to do. And various states have kind of adopted it as well, right? So now, once you have this learning outcome framework set, the next step that we need to do as any state is to support the teachers into delivering a good lesson plan, an effective lesson plan, right? And we do that through a teacher guide. Now, what's a teacher guide? Basically, there could be 100 ways to teach a topic. But what the teacher guide does is it effectively captures one of the simplest ways to do it. And it also codifies at what time the teacher should be using a textbook, when they should be using a workbook or a teaching learning material and stuff like that, right? We have states like Haryana, Telangana, MP, UP, where states have created a teacher guide and which also has weekly and daily lesson plans structured throughout the duration of the annual academic year. Now, this is for the teachers, but similarly for the students, we need to provide ample opportunities so that they can practice what is being taught, right? So we do that via student workbook. So the teachers will have a teacher guide while the students will have a student workbook along with some teaching learning materials in the classroom. But now, since this is a very big package to be put inside the classroom, we need to also get the teachers to know how to use all of this. Earlier, how teacher trainings used to happen, for example, there used to be a lot of levels through which trainings used to happen, right? There would be a very big group of state resource group which would be created to deliver trainings. Then this training would reach to a group of master trainers who would then train another group of master trainers. And then the training would reach to the teachers. How it has changed, especially in states like Bihar and MP, is that they have reduced and removed some of these levels of training so that the training directly goes from a master trainer to a teacher, and hence the effectiveness of the training improves. So this is on the large scale in-person trainings. But apart from that, there are also states like Haryana, which have developed FLN-focused digital online courses, which teachers can take with their own pace and improve their own FLN teaching skills.
Right. And Partha, now coming back to you, while these training sessions for teachers are a good initiative, how do we ensure in-class support to the teachers to make sure teachers feel supported throughout the year?
See, this is where the role of the state structures and processes come into play. Many states have started to reimagine the role of education field administrators from being merely data collectors and, doing more of monitoring and supervision to actually providing in-class support to the teachers. As we started to talk about, teachers are trying to change the pedagogy from a teacher-led pedagogy to a child-centered pedagogy, which is at the heart of this program, which wants to not only make more and more children acquire these basic skills, but also get better and better at them in terms of mastery. So what is required is that teachers are supported through this process, not just in theory, but while they're practicing it in the classrooms. So the field administrators are now visiting schools and also observing the classrooms as teachers put some of these theory into practice. And they are supporting them in specific steps that they are able to do or not do, and also checking randomly learning levels of a few children to give some formative and useful feedback to the teachers. So this is also being done at scale in many states. In UP, for example, over 1 lakh classrooms or 1 lakh teachers teaching in these classrooms are getting a support, and almost 5 lakh children who are in these classrooms are being assessed by this field administrator to give a teacher constructive feedback about the learning levels of the children or how she is transacting the lessons or using the materials and providing feedback to the children. Similarly, in other states such as Haryana, 26,000 classrooms or teachers are being observed and supported, and almost 1.5 lakh children are assessed every month.
Right. And Sambhrant, can you tell us about some of the governance-led initiatives by various states as part of this FLN mission that are ensuring these interventions are cascading down to all the levels?
To understand the progress of mission implementation at scale, the state needs data flowing in from classroom to block to district and state, and this all needs to be done through a process. For that, we need to answer a few questions. First of all, what is it that we are going to measure? So the states establish mission KPIs that are constantly monitored. For example, the states would want to know that how well are the teacher guides being used in the classroom? Is the student workbook being checked regularly on, right? So this is first of all fixed. After that, the states have to answer the question that who is going to collect this data and give this information to us? For that, the states identify and assign responsibility to a cadre that will collect this information from the classroom regularly and share it upwards to all stakeholders. The forms are created such that the info captured is super objective and there is very less subjectivity involved in all of that. And this cadre, the mentor cadre, which will collect this information, is also coached so well that they know how to observe and collect the classroom data. So that's on the who is going to collect the data. Then how is it that we collect the data? Now, for this, we need to leverage technology. So what states have is a very nicely coded app or some sort of an input tool, which would be used by this cadre of mentors to collect this data. And once all of this data comes in, this is all shown on a robust dashboard so that all of the data, the information that is being generated at block level, district level, cluster level is available for all administrators to see and to take some action. And different states have their own systems. For example, in UP, you'll find that they are using pre-existing state tech, and hence they have a bunch of apps. One is used for classroom observation, another one is used for conducting assessment of students, right? While in Haryana, you will find that there is a one-stop solution called the NIPUN Haryana app, which acts for everything related to mentoring and student assessment.
But Partha, how are these data sets that Sambhrant just talked about being used by the states?
That's a good question because, data is only useful if it is being understood, used and acted upon. So the NIPUN Bharat Mission has recommended very clear governance mechanisms at state, district, and sub-district levels. There are structures which are set up to ensure review, accountability, and action. It is in these forums that the data collected from the schools and flowing from the schools all the way through the district and district to the state, they are being used upon. Examples of this use of this data at different level, let's say at the state level, senior IS officers and bureaucrats who head the department at the state level or the topmost academic authorities of the state are expected to review the data at a state level to ensure policy, funding, and big planning decisions. We take an example of the availability of textbooks and materials in time to schools. This is something which we have seen in a state like Odisha is rigorously monitored by the senior most officers in the state, where they figure out district scorecards and figure out which are the districts which there is some delay and challenges. But ultimately, over the years, they've ensured that the learning materials for the children are reaching the schools before the start of the academic year. This is a significant improvement over previous years. And looking at district level, coming down to the district level, what we see is either collectors or the district education officers, or let's say the basic Shiksha Adhikari, such as in Uttar Pradesh, they use the data to review the implementation part and look at which blocks and which particular cluster of schools are struggling in terms of they're not getting the number of visits from the field administrators and officers, and try to address those through taking some corrective action. But let us remember the most important use of data has to be at the school level, where we expect and we are seeing headmasters, head teachers, and teachers use the data to support learners in terms of the children who are particularly falling behind or struggling to achieve the expected learning levels. They're tracking it through very useful student trackers, such as in Haryana and Odisha, and trying to support these children to come to the level which they're expected to by that point of time of the academic calendar.
And talking about how students are performing and the way they are responding to the program, how would you see the role of monitoring and high-quality assessments?
Yes. So the first type of assessment is the one that stays between the teacher and the student. It should help the teacher understand what competencies a child has mastered and which one the child needs further support on. These assessments are called formative assessments, which are essentially assessment for learning. One type of formative assessment is baked in the teaching pedagogy itself, where teachers have adopted systems where they teach a competency for 4 days, they assess the children on the 5th day, and basis the results of this assessment, they remediate the children on the 6th day. This is what we also call assessment-informed instruction. And there are states like Haryana, Odisha, UP, which have adopted this kind of a mechanism.
Right. And Partha, would you like to add something to this?
Yeah, in addition to the school-based assessment we just talked about, there are assessments conducted by the education system, which is at the state or the district level, that are intended to serve as the health check or like a thermometer of the system. So we have, let's say at the national level, the NCRT conducting, which was Parakh Rashtriya Sarvekshan, which was earlier called National Achievement Survey. We have NGOs and CSOs conducting regular surveys such as the ASAR. And after NIPUN Bharat, what we have seen is a lot of states taking the ownership of assessments in their own states and districts and conducting what we call as state level FLN surveys or achievement surveys. So these are usually large scale sample surveys, and a lot of care and attention is being taken by the states with support of technical experts like us and others to ensure that they're technically robust and reliable and also comparable year on year. The insights from such surveys are useful for primarily 3 purposes. First, to understand the current learning levels of the children, which the system is able to deliver. Second, to use this information to inform the program planning and design. For example, if children are consistently struggling to master certain competencies, the state can review the teaching learning materials and provide a better or more effective set of materials to address or teach those competencies, or train teachers better to, let's say, teach multiplication or a particular skill where we see the children struggling. Third, use of such surveys is to set targets year on year, which the state can actually use to measure if they're making progress or stagnating or falling down. What we are seeing, thankfully, across national surveys and state surveys, that there are encouraging signs of learning gains after the NIPUN Bharat mission has been implemented. And this is significant because states like Punjab, Bihar, Telangana, Odisha, Haryana, Madhya Pradesh are all conducting their own assessments and generating district and state reports, where each of the state, depending on the size, sample anywhere between 15,000 to 50,000 children, let's say in Bihar, to come up with these state and district reports, which are further used by the administrators and the authorities in the district and state level for all the three purposes that I talked about.
And lastly, Partha, what do you feel needs to happen over the next few years for these interventions to come together?
As I said, we are seeing some green shoots and some positive movements, but a lot more needs to be done. A significant percentage of children still need to master these basic skills of reading, writing, and basic mathematics. Towards these, the states need to really raise their ambition. These growths and these gains are not enough because foundation literacy and numeracy essentially means more and more children learning better and better and mastering these skills. And towards that, the states would need to stabilize and continuously improve their academic design and inputs with a very sharp focus on decentralized implementation and monitoring, and ultimately more and more ownership and engagement from the community in the learning of their own children.
You were listening to Parthajeet Das and Sambhrant Srivastava in the second episode of our 5-part series in association with CSF. This episode was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar and produced by me, Niharika Nanda. If you want to listen to the first episode of the series, you can find the link to the same in the description. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it. Share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can also tweet us at Express Podcasts or write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.